not, the minutes approved as submitted. All right. Report of town manager.
Thank you, Mayor Bragg, members of council. I wanted to basically make a public announcement that the electric department is planning to perform some aggressive, to use the term, trimming of trees throughout town next month. I think a lot of our customers have noticed a few blips and pings with our system, and a lot of those are due to branches touching lines, and let's just call them critters of various sorts, and we'd like to kind of get ahead of some of that. So I want people to be aware that that's taking place. I'm sure there will be some concerns, probably some criticisms, but the focus is to maintain the reliability of the system, and that will be taking place during the month of October. Also, just want to make everyone aware that the fall cleanup is scheduled for next week. We would ask people to have their bulk goods in limited amounts out from the 4th to the 8th, and our Public Works crew will haul those off. And that concludes my report, but I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions for Barbara? So the tree clearing, aggressive, is that with our staff or not with Harper's? When you talk about aggressive, I mean, I've seen some.
We don't have the helicopter with the blade yet.
Aggressiveness at times. I mean,
it will be with our staff. We're planning to work 7 days a week for that month.
yeah.
We're also going to rent a specific piece of equipment for the town that will let us get into areas we normally can't get into.
And you will be cleaning up the litter?
On improved areas, yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Like the James Bond thing.
All right. Next item, appearances before council. None tonight. Okay. Council comments. CG. Anything?
Nothing other than I know everybody's interested. The weather was very good at Myrtle Beach the past week. Very sunny, and the water was very warm. Thank you.
Sorry, I called on you.
I'm glad for CJ.
There, anything?
I just want to say that thank all the departments during Summerfest and whatever you did. Turned out real good. Thanks to DW's crew, Todd, electric department, et cetera, et cetera. They done an excellent job keeping everything going in town that day. I know DW was up a long time that day, and Todd was, and most of the electric department was. So I just want to tell you thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Steve?
No.
Bruce?
Bob mentioned there was a group that does around and looks at towns all over the United States, and it recently showed up on Facebook talking about, they came through Bedford at one point, and I meant to get a copy of it and present it to y'all, but they were very enthusiastic about the town and how good it looked. And I have to make one mention. They did mention all the greenery and plants around town. They really saluted that. They said that's a town that cares. So that I mean, it's I thought that was a nice comment on their part. But I'll get a copy of it. Thank you. Bruce?
Well, Centerfest went really well. I'd like to thank Todd. I would also like to thank DW and John and all our department heads for helping make Centerfest a success. Also our Sheriff's Department, our firefighters, first responders. Now setting up a cleanup. Thank you for everything you did for us. Also, I'm glad to hear that CG had a great time in Myrtle Beach and that the weather was great. Though I'm kind of curious if he went golfing as well.
I never golfed, but I like to swim and I like to relax.
Nice.
And eat seafood.
Maybe you can get a trip to Michigan.
Maybe.
Same thing on Centerfest. Excellent jobs like you always do. Appreciate your efforts. In addition, this past Saturday, the event the Boys with Dream put on, the Parade of Heroes, that was a very nice event and well attended, and we appreciate what the reef that they put together down there in Centertown Park. I think Bob may be reaching out to you, Bart, just to try to figure out a more permanent, or DW, I don't know, a more permanent.
We've spoken about that and perhaps maybe rotating it at different locations for a little bit. But.
Okay, but if that was a nice event. And then, of course, I'd like to thank probably Marshall Mountain and Dave Herrick. They were instrumental in having Kyle Petty's charity ride visit our community and visit the National D-Day Memorial, and I got to attend that event. DW and Todd was there. Very nice event. And they
Half an hour past my house, because I heard them coming through.
They really enjoyed visiting the D-Day Memorial, and I think they may come back one day. So anyway, that was all.
I think DW might have a little bit to do with that too.
You think?
Big buddies with Richard.
Right. Appreciate it. So that's all on council comments. Council committees, I don't think any committees have met since the last meeting.
I'm sorry.
But we've got some scheduled coming up, so there's some reports next time. Revisions to the agenda, so I'd like to add a new business.
Yes, sir. If you could add an item of new business to authorize allocation of ARPA funds for projects referenced in our work session, and then I'll provide you with more specific direction about a motion when we get to that. But if you
Okay, so we'll add that as the last item of new business. I'd say the first item, Mr. Warner, is the conditional use permit for an open air market at 980 Orange Street at Ray's Body Shop.
Notice is hereby given of a public hearing to be held by the Town Council at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, September 28, 2021, at the Town Municipal Building Council Hall for the purpose of hearing consideration of a request for a conditional use permit for an open-air market located at 980 Orange Street, Bedford, Virginia, tax parcel 198-A-3B-T, consisting of 1.219 acres, and the adjoining property, tax parcel 198-A-3CT, consisting of 1.375 acres. The property is zoned M1 Manufacturing and is owned by Michael W. and Sybil S. Ray. The request is being made by Sybil Ray. The market hours are proposed to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from April to October during the hours of 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., and the request is subject to conditions. Information has been on file in the Office of Planning and Community Development, and tonight anyone who is in favor of or opposed to the request is invited to express his or her views at this hearing.
With that, I'll open the public hearing for the conditional use request for the open air market at 980 Orange Street. Is there anybody that would like to speak this evening? No? Okay, then we'll...
If you got any questions.
We'll...
Get to that in new business.
Yeah, if we got any questions when we get to the action item, we'll... Okay, thank you, Mr. Ray. All right, so with that, I'll close the public hearing. Next item on the agenda is appointment of member to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority.
Ms. Ann Duncan has expressed an interest in being reappointed to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority if reappointed by council. The vacancy has been advertised and no other citizens have volunteered to serve. So tonight, council is requested to reappoint Ms. Ann Duncan to serve on the Redevelopment and Housing Authority, said term to expire October 13, 2025.
All right, we have a motion to reappoint Ms. Ann Duncan to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority.
I make a motion that we reappoint Ms. Ann Duncan to serve under Redevelopment and Housing Authority, said term to expire October 13th, 2025.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
The next item is the appointment of a member to the Economic Development Authority.
Mr. Jonathan Buttram has expressed an interest in reappointment to the Economic Development Authority if that action is taken by council. The vacancy has been advertised and no other citizens have volunteered to serve. Therefore, tonight, council is requested to reappoint Mr. Jonathan Buttram to serve on the Economic Development Authority, said term to expire November 30, 2025.
All right, do I have a motion to reappoint Mr. Jonathan Buttram to the Economic Development Authority?
I make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Jonathan Buttram to serve on the Economic Development Authority, said term to expire November 30th, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Are any discussion? Anybody got any?
Yeah, Jonathan's chairman of the EDA, has done a marvelous job.
I will echo that.
We're lucky to have him.
We're lucky to have him and glad he's willing to continue to serve.
Roll call. Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, next item, request to close the streets for the YMCA Peach Butter Christmas Flag.
The Bedford Area Family YMCA is requesting permission to hold the 42nd YMCA's annual Peaks of Otter Christmas Classic Foot Race on Saturday, December 4th, 2021, and to close streets related to the historical route around the loop. I could provide more detail, but I think you're familiar with it. They're also requesting that the right lane of traffic be closed off using cones, beginning at Longwood Baptist Church and continuing to Elm Street on Longwood Avenue. The road would be coned off for the inside lane to be used for participants from 7:30 a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. The race itself will start at 8:30 a.m. with approximately 500 runners participating, and a letter will be sent to the residents of the area. The YMCA will notify the Fire Department, Police Department, and Bedford County Fire and Rescue of the street closing, and the residents of the affected streets will also be notified and will have ingress and egress provided to their homes. Tonight, Town Council is requested to approve the closing of streets for the Peaks of Otter Christmas Classic Foot Race from 7:30 a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. as described in the action form on December 4th, 2021.
Do we have a motion to close the streets for the YMCA's?
I'll make a motion we approve the closing of the above streets for the 42nd annual YMCA annual Peaks Auto Christmas Classic Foot Race from 7:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. on December 4th, 2021.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Good question, all right?
Boy, I know you probably can't answer, maybe DW can't. How are they notifying residents? Example is Newton Circle, which has never been used. Do we know how they're,
I think they generally walk the route in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get something about box.
no further questions?
Anybody else? If not, roll call.
Mr. Johannesson? Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley? Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, the next item is a request to close the streets by the Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce.
Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce is requesting permission to hold a walk through the town to learn its history on October 29th, 2021, from 5:30 p.m. until 8 o'clock p.m., and to close the following streets. North Bridge Street from 102 North Bridge Street, which is the Bedford Boys Tribute Center, to 305 North Bridge Street, which is the Bauer Center for the Arts. The Chamber will notify the Fire Department, Police Department, and Bedford County Fire and Rescue of the street closings, and residents of the affected streets will also be notified and be provided ingress and egress to their homes. Tonight, Town Council is requested to close the above streets for a walk through the town to learn its history on October 29th from 5:30 p.m. until 8 o'clock p.m.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the above streets for the walk through the town to learn the history of October 29th, 2021 from 5:30 p.m. until 8 p.m. for the Bedford Chamber of Commerce.
Second.
Discussion, questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Is this a Friday night?
Yes.
5:30 is the same thing with that homecoming parade. We got traffic downtown, people coming and going, it's Friday afternoon. The other question is, why do we need to close North Bridge? That is we do it cautiously, but that is a main artery. That's why we got sidewalks. I'm just asking you.
Ms. Hall from the Chamber is present. I don't know if she would like to address those concerns or not. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Hello, my name is Candace Hall. I'm the Marketing Director for the Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce. We are hoping to close the roads overall for safety reasons for those who are coming and things like that, keeping the groups of people together, as well as a potential food truck that might be on the street as well.
Would the intersection be closed at Jackson and Bridge Street? When you talk about taking it to the Bauer Center, are you talking about closing that intersection there as well?
Yes, so our goal is to close it from the Bedford Boys Tribute Center to the Bauer Center for the Arts, and
that's a little problematic with the fire department and rescue squad there.
And there's no way for anybody to get through town coming from the west to the east. If you go down Bedford Avenue, get to Jackson Street.
Because if you come up Bedford Avenue, where you're going to have to
Turn up Avenue.
So you're really going to block off from Avenel to Bridge Street to direct traffic almost, aren't you, Todd? I mean,
you would have to block a little more than that off to do it. The only issue I have is the truck traffic, or the tractor trailer comes down through there, there's nowhere for them to get through.
because they can't go into the underpass.
No, they can't go into the underpass, so that would be an issue for blocking that far over. We have blocked North Bridge Street up there, but we've always left that intersection open so that the trucks can get down there. Normally when we block North Bridge Street, I think DW and I talked about it, it stops usually at the parking lot so that the trucks can come down to the parking lot and go through that area, down through over to Depot Street, because there's no other way for large vehicles to go that way.
And this is the history walk, you said?
Yes, sir.
What's your anticipated participation? Do you have any idea?
As of right now, we're hoping to be in the 75 range of people.
75 people?
Yes, sir.
Where were you going to plan to park the food truck?
Hopefully on the sidewalk, if available.
It's a concern, that intersection.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern at that intersection.
I mean, I can understand it with Summerfest, you got so many people that have to get in the street, but that's why we got sidewalks.
Is there any way, I mean, so is this walk going to be kind of scheduled at a specific time, or is it just going to be during that whole time? I didn't know if there's any way to do kind of like a temporary, I mean, you know.
It's fine for 7:30.
I mean, that'll take you an hour and a half to walk from, so it's going to be ongoing kind of activity.
Yes, so there's 2 sessions where we'll have one group of people that will be able to go through the area, learn the history, go through the walk, and then come back around, and then we'll have that second session of people being able to go through and continue to learn about the history of the town.
Could you potentially make it work if you started at 6 and didn't close that intersection? I mean, if we just closed from Main to the parking lot, right there on across from.
Yeah,
I mean, and then if you had a scheduled time, almost when you needed somebody to walk across the walk across the intersection. I don't know, if Todd could coordinate to have someone there to just kind of help people make sure from a safety standpoint if it's I don't know.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm sure we can do it. As long as we have enough people and we're not running
Right.
a lot of calls, we would have
Exactly.
somebody there. We can work that out to help you get them across the street.
Is
there
that
safely.
something that might be a little more?
We got stoplights too.
Whatever.
So do we need to adjourn it to amend the motion to that, or do we need just?
Yeah, we'll need to amend, yeah.
That would be an amendment.
Some type of amendment.
State amendments, we'll vote on.
I mean, is that something you think you all could work? Do you understand our concerns?
So from what I understand is that the overall hope for this event is to start at 6 and not to close the intersection. Is that correct?
Right, and we could block off the street from Main Street to the parking lot there at Bridge Street across from,
The North Bridge Cafe.
yeah, the Bridge Street Cafe. Right,
Yes.
because then that way if a truck's got to go, they can go up there and turn right down the parking lot.
You could use the parking lot beside of Zool's for some stuff too.
Tractor trailers will have a hard time coming up through there, through that parking lot. I don't know.
But they're not supposed to be downtown anyway, but they are.
Yeah, they show up down there, and we usually make them run through the parking lot. Run through
They
the
do
parking
come
lot.
through that bridge.
Yeah, sometimes they'll run down through that parking lot. They'll park down there in that parking lot, and then leave on Depot Street.
So somebody made a motion, so we'll vote.
Is anybody going to try to amend the motion?
I amend, say that we had this amendment, couple of them. One, it's going to be going from 6 to 8 instead of from 5:30 to 8. And also, we do not close the intersection as previously stated, going up to the Bauer Arts Center.
Jackson, whatever.
And we close at Jackson Avenue.
No, we don't close
We
that
don't
one.
close Jackson.
I think you close it from Main Street to the public parking lot on North Bridge Street.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so that's the motion. We got a second?
We need still need.
Because you're the one that
Yeah, the parking lot will have to remain open
Got a recording thing.
Okay.
for traffic to go through.
And I need to make another comment. If we keep talking, food truck can't park on the sidewalk.
All right, so we have a motion. It's like- So we're voting on the amended motion?
Yeah. Was that
Are we voting on the amended motion?
well enough stated, Mike?
It was well enough stated if she was well enough stated for her to know what you got. She's the one that matters.
All right, so I'll restate, the motion is that the hours of the street closure will be from 6 to 8, and the road closure will be from
North Bridge Street
North
from,
Bridge Street to the parking lot at, from Main Street to the parking lot.
to the public parking lot at the
across
bridge.
from Bridge Street Cafe.
We know what you're talking about.
So that's the restated kind of motion. So,
And also, I think we added there that the food truck does not park on the sidewalk.
that's not part of the motion.
Well, we have other public parking lots you could use. I mean, we could-
That's not, all right, so we have, that's the motion. We have a second. So we're voting on the amended motion.
Mr. Rush?
No.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye?
Mr. Johansson? Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion passes with 6 ayes and 1 nay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure that food truck gets that food tax.
On it.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the conditional use permit for open air market at 980 Orange Street at Ray's Body Shop.
Okay. The subject property located at 980 Orange Street is owned manufacturing M1. Ray's Body Shop is the current use of the property. The applicant is requesting an open-air market use as added to the zoning ordinance with amendments which were made in June 2021. The open-air market use can be permitted in the M1 district with a conditional use permit. In the zoning ordinance, there are specific site and special requirements that must be met, and also conditions may be imposed by both the Planning Commission and Town Council for any aspects of the request. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 2nd, 2021, and the staff report from that meeting is attached. The applicant spoke and described the request and stated she expected the market to occur on the third weekend of the month to begin. No members of the public were present to speak. The commission discussed the suggested conditions, standards required in the ordinance, and the sign type that could be placed. There was also discussion about the applicant's reference to possibly adding a bathroom building in the future and how this would not be allowed based on the special requirement in section 908.02.c that does not allow structures related to the market to be on site when the market is not open. There were 6 suggested conditions in the staff report to formally set the location and number of vendors, days, months, and times of operation, and signage. The commission amended the 6th condition as noted with underlined language and text removed to read, "One permanent sign meeting the standards of the M1 zoning district may be permitted on site with a sign permit issued through the town. The sign shall be on the property of the parcel approved for a market and shall not be in the public right-of-way. If the owner does not wish to have a sign visible all of the time, the permitted sign shall not be visible more than 48 hours prior to the market and must be removed within 24 hours after the market." The commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the conditional use permit to council with the following conditions. All activity associated with the open air market shall occur on the identified tax map parcels. Activity, including parking and vendors, shall not be permitted in the public right-of-way. 2, the market shall only be open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, yet need not operate all of those days. 3, the market shall operate in the months of April through October, yet need not operate all of those months. 4, the market hours of operation shall not exceed 8 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. on approved days. 5, there shall be no more than 38 vendors present on any market day. 6 references the sign amendment that I discussed previously. The zoning ordinance, section 1002.03.e, describes the time for council action. The council shall consider the proposed conditional use after notice and public hearing in accordance with the Code of Virginia, and shall take action on the proposed conditional use within 60 days from the date of the public hearing, which took place tonight. Tonight, Town Council is requested to consider a resolution issuing a conditional use permit for the request as recommended for approval by the Planning Commission with the 6 conditions recommended. The council may deny the request or approve the request with or without conditions. Council may also require additional conditions or amend those presented.
All right, so do we have a motion on the open air market?
I make a motion, we issue a conditional use permit for the request as recommended for approval by the Planning Commission with the 6 conditions imposed for the open air market.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Ray or concerns or?
So what are you going to have, porta johns out there instead of the bathroom building?
Yes.
Bruce, any other questions?
I think this is actually a great idea.
I have one more question or concern. How are we going to enforce the parking that's won't be on Orange Street or Independence?
Well, Steve is going to put up signs, and hopefully he said he was going to a line down through and put up the parking signs, and probably from our driveway in to the corner. And I think they should do it.
A couple of questions, kind of some concerns I've got. I mean, obviously, the intersection of Orange and Independent is a fairly busy intersection. So I'm a little worried about traffic safety there. You know, it's hard to get out there at times. So, you know, to be quite honest, on Fridays, I'm a little concerned that that's going to be difficult.
Well, I don't think we'll have to worry about it much on Fridays anyway, because my goal is Saturdays and Sundays, actually.
Okay.
But but I put that in case something went wrong with the shop or whatever, you know, Steve said he didn't want to run it anymore or something.
All right. Question on parking. So, is there no, and this might be a question for Mary, in our ordinance, there's no requirement for like the number of parking spaces you've got to have based on the number of vendors because like a lot of our other commercial type properties, we spell out how many parking spaces you've got to provide, and I don't see that, and that's, maybe we let that slide through that ordinance, but can you answer that?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Actually, that consideration is taken into consideration in the ordinance itself and the site requirements. So there was no minimum size set for a parcel that could request a special or conditional use permit for this. So basically, the size of the site had to accommodate all vendors and the parking. So that's how they got to 38 vendors, was taking that into account with the number of parking spaces they thought would generate that. So the layout of the site plan takes into account all of that, and all the requirements say that everything must be on the site for that.
So if you have 38 vendors, you got to at least have 38, well, they're going, I guess, park in their space. So do you have to have, you don't have to have, say, two more parking spaces per vendor or any, I mean, you just hope they can fit on the lot.
If they can't fit, then they can't stay. And that's where the limitation on parking would come in. I've spoken with the police chief about how we actually do that. If it should become a problem, then we would have to figure out, would it be something of putting out parking signs, or is it something that they could handle themselves with the parking signs that she suggested on the right of way. On the other side across the street, it really drops off, so I don't think anyone would be parked on that side. So the concern was just from their site down to Independence. But the size of the site should accommodate the crowds that they would have for 38 vendors.
So the next question, just to make sure, temporary. So maybe I'm looking at temporary a little different than the ordinance is a little bit. I know temporary means you can't keep anything, I guess, on the site. That means no tables, nothing, everything has to go at the end of the day, correct?
That's how the ordinance was written, that you would not know that this had an open air market on a weekend. It would go back to being Ray's Body Shop or Joe's Pool Hall, whatever it would be during the week. But this was the fill-in opportunity for businesses to do something on their site where they're already doing something else.
It just, when I see 3 days a week for 8 months, it doesn't feel temporary.
And you can condition that. It's a permanent use that occurs temporarily or on occasion. It's not a temporary use, it is permanent.
So we could
and that's why
limit
you're
those
giving
days
the
or the time. So, and maybe at this point, if she's willing to offer that, this Ray's not going to do it on Fridays. Maybe that's I don't know how anybody else feels. But that would make me feel a little bit better, because Friday I think is going to be the worst day from a traffic standpoint. 8 o'clock in the morning, you got bus traffic, you got tractor trailer traffic. I mean, you got people going back and forth to work.
We talked about that as well for Ms. Ray's benefit too, is just tell everything you want to do in the future so you don't have to come back through this process again. You can condition that in the beginning or, for all time, it would not be on Fridays.
And she could always come back and make an amendment to that condition. And that gives us a little bit of history of how this is going to work too. I mean,
well, in light of also, we're going to be having likely new zoning regs in a year and a half, so it gives us an opportunity to see how it works. And then
right, and where we need to tweak it.
And my concern would be, like on Fridays too, you have a business there.
Yeah, well, as long
and
as...
I look like it would be hard for people going to their body shop and trying to go over here. I just bought that up just in case.
Right.
So are you saying you're willing to give up the Friday in here?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm not going to use Fridays anyway, as long as the shop is there, and that's probably indefinitely, I'm hoping so.
Do you see a problem with that, Mary?
It's your condition to impose.
If something happened with the shop, we could go back, I guess, and request it.
So the signage, are you anticipating putting a permanent sign?
I would prefer a permanent sign, because 48 hours, I don't think it's enough time to give sellers a chance. And what I want to do is put up a sign, and like to start out with, I'm going to put sale third Saturday, third weekend of the month, and go from there. I'll have a nice sign, and then underneath it, I'll have where I can change it if I need to. No sale this month or whatever, but then I'll have a sign saying, you know, third or whatever weekend, or whatever Saturday and Sunday.
And this is more first come, first served type thing?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So will they fall under your business license, or will they have to get their own business license?
No, they're separate.
So the only economic benefit is the 130, the business license from Ms. Ray that's going to run the signs. Because, I mean, that is a little concern, you know, obviously. Are these people competing against brick and mortar type people that are selling antiques and slightly used stuff?
I would actually, this might be a point of clarification, I don't think they would be getting a business license as an individual person who's just coming out on a Saturday to sell something they had that they didn't want to put in their front yard.
Right.
I don't see that going that way. This would be probably a separate business license from Ray's Body Shop, but it would be Ray's Open Air Market, Bedford Open Air Market, whatever Ms. Ray wants to call it. We could regulate it that way. I don't see any tax benefit coming back from the vendors, except unless one of those vendors is a food truck and you'll get the meals tax.
Yeah, so.
It's nothing more than a yard sale type thing, but they're
Yeah,
putting
but
it
I mean,
somewhere
he's a professional yard seller.
Instead of somebody's house, that may cause more traffic issues.
Well, the other argument is you got 38 vendors here that are going to spend money hopefully somewhere else in town.
Bingo. Yes.
So you plan on having any food trucks?
Well, not unless somebody approaches me, and if they do, they have to have a business license, correct?
Right.
And collect food tax.
Collect meals tax.
Yes.
I mean, if you, I can go along with this, if, I think I've got some of my issues. You know, like I said, if everybody's willing to get rid of the Friday day right now, that was probably my biggest concern, is the traffic situation on Friday.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was no plans really for people to come Friday anyway.
You've done this a couple times before, but was it a big event or just your own private?
Oh, just yard sale.
Just one individual yard sale?
Well, I had my sister, my nephew.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it was 6 people at one time. In fact, this is what got me into the idea. The first time I had it, everybody kept coming by and said, man, this is great, this is a perfect spot. I love it here. And I don't have to drive, Daddy Ray and all. And everybody kept on, why don't you do this all day? When are you going to do this again? And I thought, well, this is a good thing because people get together. Well, I talked to classmates I hadn't seen for years, just stopping by, and everybody's just really pushed me on, let's do something, see what you can do, so.
You're just competing against Dale Hall, that's all.
Guess what?
Good point. Compete with Dale Hall.
That's not what we're doing.
No, I wouldn't what he said.
That is not what we're doing.
I believe in free enterprise, Tim, so I'm all for it.
Leaving the food trucks on sidewalks.
All right, so we have a motion. I mean, is anybody willing to?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
We got. Are you going to amend the motion?
I'm going to amend the motion.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to amend the motion as stated with these 6 conditions and eliminating Friday as a business day. Is that appropriate?
Second.
All right, any other discussion, questions? Roll call.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 6 ayes.
Nope, we got to add a new action item for allocation of the,
See if I can get this right.
all right.
Staff would request that you entertain a motion authorizing allocation of funds provided by the American Rescue Plan Act for projects referenced in the work session conducted on September 28, 2021 as follows. Up to $500,000 towards the extension of the water line to Belltown Road and Draper Road. up to $2 million towards town and country subdivision sewer improvements, up to $2 million for the Helm Street tank water replacement, and up to $100,000 toward broadband internet improvements within town limits.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion of what the town manager just said.
Yeah, I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Well said.
Is there a second?
Well said.
Any other discussion?
That's why you pay me the big bucks.
All right, so, that's well underway, and then we'll figure out the rest as we go along.
Yeah.
Keep hunting for uses of it, that's all I'm going to say. All right, so,
We would need this, when does the second round come? Tanya?
First of the year.
First of the year. Oh, okay.
all right, so, roll call.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
All right.
Mr. Rush? Mr. Schoen? Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, meeting adjourned.